Good afternoon, members. And I'll call to order the regular meeting of the panel on public service. The original regular meeting should have been held in April, but then it clashed with the Greater Bay Area visit. That's why it's rescheduled to today. My apology, therefore, that we're going to have two regular meetings this month. Item 1, information paper issues in the last meeting. We have not received any, or we have not issued any information paper since the last meeting, members, please note. Item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next meeting will be on the 15th of May, very soon, next week actually. It's at 10:45 a.m. is a regular meeting as well. So at the next meeting, we're going to consider promotion of volunteer service in the civil service, and secondly, manpower situation and grade structure review of the lifeguards of the Leisure and Cultural Services Department. Members, do you have any comments on the two items? No? Then, so we have decided on the agenda for the next meeting. Now we proceed to items for discussion today. First, we'll invite the secretary and her colleagues to join us. Members, if you wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. Item 3, enhancement of training and development of all civil servants. Can I invite Mrs. Ingrid Young, Secretary for the Civil Service, to take us through the paper? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, members, the civil service is civil servants are the backbone of the government's team. Their training is an important aspect of the quality of the civil service team. So we're going to enhance training of civil servants. I'm going to highlight the various training measures. First of all, the Civil Service College will, through a systematic training framework, achieve 5 objectives. Firstly, enhancing governance and leadership capabilities. Secondly, deepening understanding of the constitutional order, national development and strategies. Thirdly, building a people-oriented service culture. Fourthly, strengthening professional competence. And fifthly, promoting a culture of continuous learning. The Civil Service College will provide training focusing on in mindset building. There are various aspects of training, but then it's around the core of the core values of the civil service. There will be multifarious approach in training. This is to enhance the experience of training and also to cultivate a sense of national identity and patriotism and shared commitment to serve our country and Hong Kong. The training on national affairs is an important aspect of our training. First, we're going to have a systematic training. So there will be a foundation training that's mandatory starting from July last year. For new recruits, they must complete comprehensive foundation training so they could better understand about the one country, two systems, the constitution, the basic law, and an important development strategy of the country and so on. As for those with professional degrees or qualifications or degrees after probation, they must also undergo advanced training to deepen their understanding of the constitutional order of Hong Kong, to enhance their awareness of safeguarding national security. as of July 20, actually since July 2022, 4,800 colleagues have completed training. We also have a 2-year master's degree in public policy program jointly held with the Peking University. Aspiring colleagues are sent to this program, and there's good review from the first batch of trainees, and we're going to start the second year of the program, second cohort in September this year. And then participants will also visit different places, conduct research and studies, and gain first-hand experience of the country's development. And then the civil servants may also attend the Executive Master of Public Administration program for the project of Hong Kong Public Administrative Talents at the Tsinghua University. And then by the middle of this year, we're going to resume national studies program at tertiary institutions on the mainland. This is for civil servants to better understand about national development and strategies. The Civil Service Bureau a civil service college will also work with the mainland Institute for Hong Kong and Macau Studies, Peking University, to organize in-depth training program to enhance directorate officers' understanding of one country, two systems, and contemporary China. And also, we need to better train civil servants to take up their responsibility in serving the Hong Kong. And also, we're going to have resume the exchange program, and they will extend it from 4 weeks to 3 months. That's the Civil Service Staff Exchange Program. And then we're going to also hold foreign affairs talks together with the liaison office. For example, invite the Commissioner, Mr. Liu Guangyuan, to give thematic talks on international relations and so on. And also, we're going to have high-level talks on national policies. For example, in March, we held 2 sessions on learning about the spirit of the 2 sessions. This is for directorate officers to better understand about the policies of the country and the development strategies. And also, we are going to help promote through succession. Then we're going to enhance leadership training programs. We include new topics such as geopolitics, international relations, national strategies, Hong Kong's distinctive status and advantages, I&T strategy in the public service, and so on. And also, there's analysis of local case studies and analysis, experience sharing, and site visits to maximize so the civil servants will keep abreast of the latest local, national, and global developments. We're also going to actively promote the people-oriented service culture. This culture will be included in all aspects of training, such as in induction, management, leadership, to functional and skills-based training at all levels. There are also dedicated training programs for building a service culture, covering public service ethos and its application, service skills, and team collaboration. And also, we will promote good practices, such as holding the civil service outstanding service award scheme and organize the organizing the Serve with Excellence seminar series. And then on application of IT, the college will work with different bureau and departments. It will invite scholars, experts, and government officials to share their experience on the latest I&T development. And also, we will step up I&T content in the leadership program, so civil servants will better learn about the development of smart cities and so on. And then the Civil Service College will enhance its organizational structure to provide quality training to civil servants. We hope to build a team of civil servants that love the country and who are patriotic, and also they also have high level of competence, and they could provide a quality service to the people of Hong Kong as well as contribute to national development. Thank you. Mr. Kingsley Wong, Reverend Peter Kuhn, Mr. Tony Chen, and myself have pressed the button to ask to speak, so 5 minutes each for questions and answers. Mr. Kingsley Wong. Well, yes, the national government's attaching great importance to civil service training, in particular in relation to national studies. It's important. Now, there are several issues here, point raised here. First, you are going to send office civil servants to attend the Executive Master of Public Administration program. Is for officers above MPS 34. But then here it says that the program is now for those at D3 or above. So are you narrowing the scope? What about officers above MPS 34? They are younger. Probably they and also also for the then there will be a requirement of a length of service thereafter is been increased from 2 years to 5 years. So can you align all the arrangement for those at T3 or above? And then the civil service, the staff exchange program, you're extending it from 4 weeks to 3 months, but can you extend it further to a year? Especially for civil servants, they can be sent to Greater Bay Area and work there for a year. This will better strengthen our collaboration with the mainland, and then our civil servants will have a better understanding of the development on the mainland. And then in future, they will be able to work better with their counterparts on the mainland. And the third point, there's a professional development center, School of Professional Development, rather, that's to train civil servants, middle rank and junior rank civil servants. Well, but labor unions also organize courses. Can you work with labor unions on the suitable courses? For example, if there are some labor unions with collaborating with, say, provincial authorities to conduct courses, so maybe you should offer leave to civil servants to take up these courses on the mainland, and then this could also form part of the appraisal. So that means the Civil Service College doesn't have to run so many courses on its own. It could work with other civil service unions to organize courses, so you don't need to add so much manpower to your establishment. And that way it could boost the efficiency of training. Do you think so? First question. The Tsinghua Master Program is, we won't just subsidize civil servants at D3 or above. If I recall correctly, for those non-directorate officers, they may also be sent to the program, but I'm not sure if it's at MPS 34 or above. But definitely it's not at D3 or above. There are non-directorate officers, for example, officers with MPS of 40-something. They could apply, but of course it's up to Tsinghua to take them in. But anyway, I'll check the information. Your second point about collaboration with unions, perhaps I'll say a few words, and then I'll invite the head of the Civil Service College to speak on the training content and so on. Now, if the unions work with well-known institutes to offer courses, the civil service regulations state that if the CSC work with other institutes on labor affairs and relations, for instance, then they don't need to take their own leave, and civil servants could attend these courses. But then there are other courses not related, say, to labor affairs. And if the organizer is a well-known institute, we will look at it case by case. We have exercised discretion, and we have granted leave to someone before to attend such courses. So we look at it case by case. That's another point is about exchange. Well, we use the term exchange because what we do is not exactly the same as the duties on the mainland. So it's not like an attachment, therefore, but rather our colleagues will take up a certain position. Initially, we'll start with 3 months because we want more colleagues to have the chance. If each exchange term is 1 year, that means fewer colleagues could gain this experience. In any case, we will review after a year. We'll look at the feedback and then we'll review if there's need to change it. If you allow a bit more time, perhaps I could invite the head of the Civil Service College to tell you about courses jointly run by labor unions, civil service unions, and mainland institutes, and whether this could take the place of the CSC, some of the CSC courses. Well, I think the Secretary has already given you an overall reply. When we talk about the training of civil servants, any training must be able to meet the needs of civil servants. So therefore, it's for individual grades to consider specific training. We don't want someone to have certain privilege just because they say they are union members and they will be given additional resources. So the overall operation is that we'll consider the training needs of individuals, and there shouldn't be a cross-the-board arrangement. It's not appropriate. And as the Secretary explained, we will exercise discretion for individual cases, and that's probably the best approach.
Sorry, I would like to add that I did not mean that you should accord priority to members of the unions. I was just wondering if you could provide courses for union members so that we can, so that they can take part in courses that are jointly held with our mainland counterparts. Of course, there is such a possibility of collaboration. In February, I led a visit to the mainland to look into the training structure and training methods available there. But of course, it is impossible for us to cover all these institutions that organize such courses. We need to plan ahead first. Thank you. Next, Reverend Peter Kuhn. Thank you, Chair. I'm glad to see that the paper covers a lot of areas. I can see that you have stressed the importance of mindset building. It is important for civil servants to have the correct mindset. I would like to hear more details regarding the mindset building training. Do you have any objective criteria? In the past, perhaps there is the stereotype of civil servants, people's impression of them. How are we going to convert civil servants' mindset so that they can provide a people-based service culture? I won't go as far as saying that it is very fake, as calling it a people-oriented service culture. But do we have any concrete measures in place so that we can establish this service culture? It is unlike things that are tangible, such as the basic law. You can give them tests for that. But for mindset, how can you measure the effectiveness of mindset building? If someone has a positive mindset and is proactive in conducting their job duties, then of course they will be very proactive in handling public concern. If they have such a positive mindset, they will be able to go the extra mile and achieve better results in a shorter time frame. Thank you. Secretary, perhaps I'll invite the head of the CSC to elaborate. Thank you for your questions. What you said represents a major change after the establishment of the CSC. Mindset building plays a very important role. How can we evaluate the effectiveness of mindset building objectively? Well, in my opinion, there are no objective guidelines. the major changes represented by the establishment of the CSC is not an increase of manpower. So we should not just look at the number of courses organized. The goal of the CSC is to provide training for civil servants so that we can implement one country, two systems more effectively. This is a long-term policy in relation to human resource management. That is why we place an emphasis on mindset building that includes understanding of our country and patriotism. How are we going to interpret mindset building? I don't see any restrictions here. During lessons, when we see participants' reaction, we provide suitable guidance for them in the format of videos or other content. This can guide them to reflect more deeply on how to provide a people-oriented service culture. We need to understand that with this emphasis on mindset building, we'll be able to achieve results. We start by influencing a small amount of people, and then we can grow this influence among the whole civil service. In the past, we focused on skills training. The result was that we have a very professional team, but with different service cultures. We want our civil servants to be professional and united with a single, consistent culture. This is what we are talking about when we talk about mindset building. Thank you. Next, Mr. Tony Tse. Training for civil servants is very important. I agree with what Mr. Kwok said, that it is important to look at the results or the effectiveness. How are we going to evaluate the effectiveness? Other than topics covered in the courses, well, they may not be focusing on skills only. They may focus on mindset building as well. What is the format of instruction that is equally important? We want participants to be able to understand what you're teaching so that their mindset can be enhanced. That includes their understanding and how willing they are to take on initiatives. How can you evaluate the course's effectiveness? And how do you evaluate how much the participants are willing to participate? Very often they are assigned to attend these courses. Perhaps during the lessons they are not committed to it at all. They may have other things on their plate. They may have other duties to attend to. I believe these are important factors to consider. Otherwise, resources may not be used effectively. And as other members have mentioned, there are courses targeting senior civil servants and civil servants in the middle. I hope that you can set out the details more clearly. In paragraph 18, let's say, there are courses for directorate officers and for senior officers. Does that mean officers at MPS points 45 to 49? How about middle civil servants? which MPS points are we talking about? Because there are many courses available. I understand that the workload is very heavy. As set out in the paper, you need sufficient manpower. So you need to think about the effectiveness of the courses provided. I hope that you can elaborate on this further. In the past, civil servants have taken part in visits to the mainland and courses on mainland studies. Since these officers needed to take leave from their original position, especially for visits, newer civil servants have fewer vacation days, so it may be more difficult to engage them in such programs. Can you handle these applications more flexibly? Of course, I understand that there may be different circumstances and cannot be handled the same way. But I hope that for participating civil servants, they'll be able to reap the benefits of such programs. I hope that you can provide a clear channel or mechanism for application for these civil servants. I understand that the workload is very heavy for the CSC in the future. We are offering courses that are very broad in nature, benefiting some tens of thousands of participants. So this certainly will have a big impact. Secretary, any response? Mr. Se asked about the commitment level of our course participants. How are we going to evaluate their commitment level? Of course, that depends on participants' mindsets. However, we are committed in designing the courses in such a way that is engaging to participants. The CSC is enriching course content and course instruction methods. We want the courses to be useful for our participants, not only in terms of professional capabilities, but also on broadening their horizon and their understanding of the world, of our country, and of Hong Kong. This can make participants feel that the programs are useful. We want to make the courses more interesting and more engaging for our participants. Second, on participation, I would like to clarify that civil servants do not have to use their own vacation days if they are participating in duty visits organized by their respective departments or bureaus. We are promoting a lifelong learning attitude. We want our colleagues to understand that their position is more than a job. We want them to learn continuously, to widen their horizon and their professional knowledge. This is how they can do better at their jobs. We are promoting this attitude. Our country places great importance on civil servant training. In Singapore, they also have a very robust civil service college. We are drawing experience from them as well. Chair, one thing I would like to add. How are you going to follow up on the enhanced performance of the participants after the courses? One consideration is the promotion prospect. Perhaps they can be assessed at regular intervals after participation of these courses. This can increase their level of commitment. Are their superiors aware of their course content? Chair, especially for senior officers, it may not be a good idea to, say, give them a test to see how much they've learned from the courses. Their supervising officers will be able to see progress as time goes by. When we look at an officer's promotional prospects, we have to take various factors into consideration as well.
Head of the CSC, thank you for your views. Well, perhaps I could put it this way, put it simplest way. For each training course, there's feedback, also feedback to the supervising officer. And if there are outstanding, trainees or extreme cases, definitely we will give feedbacks to the supervising officers concerned. Now, what we tell you today is just the first step, actually, at this point in time. In the long run, in terms of human services management and policies, they will tie in with our training strategy. Now, if someone is given training, and will follow up on progress, because we want to make sure that the suitable officers are given suitable support and training for them to be groomed for promotion, for instance. And so we certainly follow up on that. Now, I just went to Singapore to visit the relevant departments, and I also learned that they have many good practices to share with us on training of departmental staff and so on. So we will give a report to this panel at an appropriate time. Now it's my turn. Now we have Patriots administering Hong Kong. The civil service team is, of course, an important part of that. And it's also will give strong support to Patriots administering Hong Kong, and of course, for them to give support, they have to be competent. It seems that the whole paper is just focused on the training of middle-ranking and senior-ranking civil servants. What about junior civil servants? Don't they need training? Especially if we talk about building the mindset. Is it only necessary for those in management positions? Well, frontline officers are the first to come into contact with the public, so they are in the best position to tell good stories about Hong Kong. So should we not step up training for this junior civil servants? I know, of course, the CSC has limited manpower. If you want to extend training to cover all junior civil servants, it may be challenging. But then there is actually a need for it. Just now, Mr. Kingsley Wong mentioned a point. Shouldn't you be enlisting help from others? So for junior or middle-ranking civil servants, they should also have a chance to be trained on constitutional order and national security, for instance. Because we've come across these cases, there are some junior or middle-ranking officers. They may have certain language proficiency, but but then they may not be able to follow very formal writing, for instance. So there is need to train them face to face, so their sense of responsibility could be enhanced. Now we say that the sense of responsibility is derived from sense of mission. We need to enhance the ethos and the culture of the civil servants as a whole. So we need to enhance, have enhancement across the board. We shouldn't just train those in management position and then we leave the others out. No. And the second point, there's mention of the Peking University or Tsinghua University. They are the top universities in the country. It's not easy to be admitted to these universities, and I can see the cost is quite high. We're talking about 200,000 to 300,000 yuan and in terms of tuition fees, and then you probably pay other allowances, and of course they take these programs using their during their office hours. Even though you've put in invested in so much resources, you only ask them to sign an undertaking for staying in the civil service for 2 years. Is that enough? Because here we're talking about courses that cost quite a substantial amount of money. So we to tie them down for a long time, maybe I would not talk about 10 years, 20 years, but at least 5 years or 8 years. Have you done any comparison with this market? Because we were talking about investment of substantial resources. So if it's just an undertaking of 2 more years of service, is that not enough? And that's mentioned also in the paper CLC Plus. We encourage junior and middle-ranking civil servants to take up training on their own, so it's self-learning. But what is the outcome of the CLC Plus? How many have visited the site or taken up the courses there? And what is the focus of training? In the CLP Plus, there's not enough mention in the paper, so perhaps the secretary or the head of CSC could give us more information. Let me answer questions on matters of principle, and then the head could supplement with information. For junior and middle-ranking civil servants, we do not overlook their training needs in terms of constitutional order training and so on. Well, we're talking about a large number of colleagues, so we're considering other delivery mode. Maybe they can't join visits, but at least there could be online learning and so on. So we are working on that. But then with the foundation training, that is induction training, even for junior and middle-ranking officers, they have to take up the foundation training upon joining the civil service. First, they will be trained on our service culture, and also they must learn about the country, the constitution, the basic law, and so on, commensurate with the relevant level. As for the 2-year master program, we'll only identify colleagues with exceptional potential or who've demonstrated a strong sense of responsibility and who are very committed and competent. So that's why we are not worried that colleagues will actually quit the civil service soon after they come back. Well, these are talents. So aren't you worried they will be poached? Well, that's an undertaking of 2 years. But can we extend that? Well, we'll consider it. Since there is this view. But anyway, we have confidence in the colleagues we pick. We certainly will select people who are very much committed to serving the public. As for the other issues, I wonder if the head has anything to add. Yes, thank you. On mindset training and also CLC Plus. On building a mindset, Chairman, you pointed to a practical issue. we're talking about a large number of civil servants. If they all have to take up face-to-face training organized by the Civil Service College, it's probably not practicable. Not practical. But anyway, we're not overlooking the training needs of these colleagues. In the past months, I've spent much time trying to find out the training provided by different departments. Now, some departments take culture training, building very seriously, so they have done a lot on their own. And there are other departments that just rely on the CSC to provide such training. So then there's not a standard arrangement, and it's not desirable. That's why in the long run, in terms of the human resources management framework of the government, we will require all departments to train their own staff on service culture. As for new recruits and their training, we will compile training materials so the departments could offer training on their own. As for the CLC Plus, I can give you some information here. The CLC Plus covers the basic training, the national security law, national studies, and so on. In 2022, there's about 1.72 million visits. And then there's also leadership management, leadership training management, INT. And in 2022, there's about 990,000 visits to such programs. As for induction training, we have this new recruits avenue, learning about one country, two systems, basic law and so on, and also writing skills and so on. 78,000 visits were paid to such course websites. So since the establishment of the CSC, we have embarked upon a project on enhancing the platform for civil service training. In 2023 to 25, we are going to launch a completely new training website for civil servants. We have already been given $30 million for the project. So between 2023 and 25, we're going to build this system in phases. And in 23 to 24, we expect to spend $2.1 billion on advanced work such as system analysis, engaging contractors, and so on. We expect the new platform will use the latest technology to provide diversity of training modes, such as short video training, and also the platform aims at enhancing the interests of civil servants to take up training on their own. And then also there will be better evaluation system for us to follow the progress of the trainees, and then we could then provide other training accordingly. So we will be adopting INT definitely in promoting the training of civil servants. Now, can you give us information about length of service required for staff members sent to training in the private market compared to your practice? Mr. So Chang-Wing, Deputy Chairman. Well, I'm no longer Deputy Chairman now, actually. Anyway, thank you. Now, I support the effort of the CSC in working so hard on so many fronts. The paper covers a wide range of programs. So in terms of boosting professional competence, leadership abilities, and also adoption of new INT and so on, these are all good training programs. The secretary and the head of CSC also mentioned focusing on mindset building. So we will then cultivate a new service culture and standard set of values. Well, for such training is tough. Now, many have said that we should change the mindset of civil servants in terms of national sense of national identity and so on. Of course, there's a need to make such changes. But here we are talking about changing someone's mindset is really the biggest challenge of all forms of training. So I have two questions. Now you say you train about 20,000 civil servants. It's not clear in the paper. It seems that in 2023 you will be training 20,000 civil servants, right? Oh well, that's not easy. You can train 20,000 people in 1 year. But then here we're talking about mindset building or cultivating the standard set of values in civil servants. So that I think it's not easy. You have to let everybody gain a good idea or gain a good sense of this. We're talking about civil service team of over 100,000 people, and you're training 20,000 people this coming year. Maybe they will then help to influence others. But perhaps to achieve that, you need to extend the programs to others. How are you going to do that? How can we change or build the mindset of civil servants as a whole? How do you do that? And the second point, I said this before and some members mentioned it just now. Okay, people take up these training courses. Can there be some sort of assessment or examination? So this is a way for you to assess the capabilities of civil servants. You've been evading this issue, it seems. I know it's difficult to set any standards that all will accept. So that's why you say that you are going to make sure these courses will actually reach, influence people in some way. But how do you actually go about that?
其實首先即係當然
On the number of trainees, as Mr. Kwok said, it is not that practical to conduct face-to-face training for some 100,000 civil servants. For junior civil servants, we want to compile training materials for the relevant departments to conduct their own training. This is a more practical way to go about it. We will also promote online courses, such as those offered on CLC+. They have courses on the basic law and the national development. These are available for viewing for our for civil servants. We want more people to benefit from these courses. We'll be able to provide face-to-face training for 20,000 civil servants that may account for 1/8 or 1/9 of the overall civil service. These officers may be supervisors, or even as a colleague, they may be able to bring about changes in their workplace or in their offices as well. As for how to enhance the emotional impact of the programs, I'll invite Mr. Kwok to elaborate. Thank you. In programs on mindset building, will be able to benefit some 20,000 civil servants. The number is set out in the controlling officer's report. The number of colleagues receiving training actually exceeds 20,000 because we have incorporated elements of mindset building into other training courses as well. In 2023, we expect that 62,000 civil servants will be receiving training courses. These are the actual number of participants who will receive face-to-face training programs. As for ways to enhance the emotional impact of the programs offered, we'll be using video clips or even popular films, TV shows, historical stories or accounts in our training programs. We want to do more than just exchange information. We want our officers to go the extra mile. We want them to think from the perspective of members of the public. If they are someone looking for service, how will they go about it? That there is also emotional impact on our teaching staff as well. These courses have enhanced their enthusiasm in teaching. Any follow-up? If there is any follow-up, please press the button for the second round. Next, Dr. Amen Yu. Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. First, on the relationship between training and promotion. Some members ask similar questions. My first question is this. Before a civil servant is promoted, are there any mandatory training courses to be taken? And second, are there any mandatory examinations before they are picked to be promoted? Secretary, other than colleagues or positions requiring professional qualifications, we don't have other mandatory examination in place. As for mandatory training programs, we have mandatory induction training for new colleagues. They have to finish the induction training within the 3-year probation period. Otherwise, they will not be hired on permanent terms. After they are hired on permanent terms, if they belong to a degree grade or professional grade, within 3 years after the between 3 years upon the completion of the probationary period, they have to complete foundation training programs. For middle-ranked civil servants, there are 3 different training programs on leadership. These are not mandatory training courses for now because quotas are limited. However, in the future, with the establishment of a new IT system and with the completion of the new CSC complex and enhanced manpower, we would like to establish a training structure for each grade, setting out the details of the programs required, or perhaps on a credit base, how many credits do they need to acquire. There is another point that I would like to make for directorate officers. Their national studies training is conducted at the National Academy of Governance. Currently, the coverage rate is 75% before the pandemic. We want to increase the coverage rate to 100% in the future. They may have other important engagements, such as overseas duty visits or important programs or initiatives to take forward. However, we want to increase the coverage rate to 100%. We want to provide enough programs for these officers to participate in. In the future, when we have sufficient resources and manpower, and with a robust IT system, we will put in place a training structure for departments to follow. Chair, I spent 22 seconds to ask my question, and the Secretary spent some 3 minutes to answer. So the answer is that there are no mandatory training programs or mandatory examinations except for new recruits. How can you be sure that the officers promoted have the professional capabilities to be promoted? Is mandatory examination or mandatory training course not an option for the administration? How come you do not make examination or training courses mandatory for these colleagues? Secretary, well, I have talked a lot about mindset building and the capabilities of senior officers. These qualities cannot be tested using a test paper or an examination. You can write anything you want in an examination paper. What's important is how someone acts and performs. That is why, during the promotion exercise, we refer to the annual appraisal reports of individual officer. And in these appraisal reports, the appraising officer needs to include details on the potential of this officer and how capable the officer is when compared with officers of the same rank, and whether or not they are suitable to take on position at the next rank. We focus on qualitative assessment. We believe that this approach is more suitable in considering promotion. When we have sufficient resources and manpower, we'll be able to set out a training structure. And we will also be able to follow these structures to train our colleagues. There is an element of mandatory training in that. Any other colleagues who wish to speak but haven't pressed the button yet? Thank you. I'll draw the line here. Next, Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chair. In the paper, there are details missing on indicators of civil servant training in the future. Why do I say this? In paragraph 8, it is mentioned that the number of trainee days will be increased from 19,800 last year to 32,000 in 2023, involving about 20,000 civil servants. If you look at the whole civil service, there are some 180,000 civil servants. So I don't quite understand the points made here. In the paper, there are no training hours indicators included. I'm a teacher myself. For newly recruited teachers, they have to accumulate 30 hours of training per year. So within the first 3 years of service, they have to accumulate 90 hours of service. And now 150 hours of training are needed within 3 years. And for INT teacher, they have to obtain qualifications in terms of BIT, RIT, etc. Understand that the CSC needs more resources and a comprehensive complex. How are you going to address these needs? I understand that Mr. Kwok used to work in the police force. Then you would know that there are requirements before promotions are made. We want the public to understand that our civil servants are keeping up with the times and that the quality of service is continuously increasing. I hope that there can be more indicators so that we can understand better the direction of civil servant training in the future. Thank you. Secretary, like I said, we would like to set up a training structure for different grades. We will first need an IT system to record the training progress of our colleagues. We are currently working on that, and this is part of our vision for the future. I'll see if Mr. Kwok has anything to add. Thank you, Chair. And I thank the member for your question. Like I said, with the establishment of the IT platform, we'll be able to systematically record the number of training hours for each colleague. Then we'll be able to incorporate requirements for different officers, let's say for INT capabilities or the understanding of the national development. We need the IT system to do this. This is the first step for the CSC to move forward. I can't say for certain that in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time what will it be like exactly, but this is the direction that we are taking. We are shifting the focus of our training. It shows the changes made by the government in the training of our colleagues. This is the most important change with the establishment of the CSC. In the past, we focused on professional capabilities, but now we are focusing on the overall mindset of our colleagues. I hope that you can look at the comprehensive picture and not just on the individual numbers of the courses offered. Of course, we appreciate your views and suggestions, and we will definitely incorporate them into our development. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I'll start with some basic question. Now, the government takes so seriously the training of senior civil servants, it seems, and you say the coverage is now 70%, you want it to be 100%. Now, many have told me that the duties of civil servants are heavy. So if they want to go on lengthy training and be allowed by the department to do so, is actually not easy. So my question is, do you have training reserve among directorate officers? Let's say on the establishment there are 100 directorate officers, and then you have 10 training reserve places. That means that any one time 10 directorate officers could receive training and be taken out of the duties. And if you have this training reserve, then that means you could plan longer training courses. For example, paragraph 18 in the paper, you list out 4 types of training. Advanced Leadership Enhancement Program, 8 days. For senior officers, is MPS 45 to 49, 3 weeks. MPS points 38 to 44, 13 days. MPS points 27 to 37, 5 days. Well, you ask whether there could be examinations at the end of course. Of course not, because we just talk about a few days or 3 weeks at most. What is the point of sitting an exam after that? But say if we find that certain officers perform well and they have good potential to be promoted, then you could give them longer training that covers a more comprehensive range of issues. If it's 2 months or 3 months, then you could ask them to go sit an exam after the course or even write a thesis. And so if you have training reserve, you can allow people to go on training for 2-3 months. And so that way you could train civil servants better, and you will, groom a better team of leaders. I wonder if you think this is a good idea and if it's feasible. Now, Secretary, at the moment we do not have training reserve as suggested by Mr. Lai. Well, if we do have training reserve, that means we have to create many more directorate posts. But then for certain departments, especially the specialist departments, they may have just 10 to 20 directorate officers at most, and just a few officers at each rank. So we need a reserve for each rank. It's probably not workable. Maybe there are 3 D3 officers. It's difficult to create a reserve post just for the training needs of the 3 officers. In any case, when we offer training, there are the longer training courses. In paragraph 18, we mentioned training courses for senior officers. But then for colleagues with potential, we may give them longer training. I mentioned the program at the Peking University is a full-year program at the Peking University. And then in the second year of the program, there is need to write a thesis. So if you consider thesis a form of assessment, so yes, there is assessment. And then we have colleagues who are sent to overseas institutions for attending training courses. So, and the training courses could be on the mainland or overseas. And if the officer goes on the training, then someone at a rank below may act in his post. And acting is a form of experience accrual. So that's how we fill the gap. And if it so happens that after an officer has acted in post up and rank, and then eventually the post is vacated, then that person could then continue to act in this higher ranking post. So from what I understand, you are saying, actually, from having heard what you say, I think, when you talk about training of senior officers, shouldn't just be for a particular post. There should be training for a general training for senior officers, because there should be certain general skills that they need to learn. And as you suggested, if someone's gone on training, then someone else could act in his or her post. It's like when colleagues take leave because they have vacation leave, they may take leave, and when they're on leave, someone will act in their post. So it's the same idea. And if you could offer colleagues longer training, then you could offer more formal training, especially for the professional grades. They are they are professionals, of course, in their own right. But if you ask them to take up management duties, this may not be part of their professional training. So that's why we need to fill the gaps there. So I hope the Secretary will consider this again. Is there any possibility of making some adjustments? Because we want to train a batch of civil servants who are highly competent. Now, you set up the Civil Service College with this in mind, actually. Anything else from the Secretary? No, nothing, Mr. Chairman. Okay, then for this item, I'll conclude the discussion here, because we need to move on to the next item. Next item, strengthening the organizational structure of the Civil Service College and the General Grades Office in the Civil Service Bureau. This is actually an establishment proposal. All members of the Council have been invited to join this discussion. Members, if you wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. First, I will invite Mrs. Ingrid Young, the Secretary for the Civil Service, to take us through the paper. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, there are quite a number of posts that we wish to create, so my presentation may be a bit longer. I ask for your forbearance. Now, the Civil Service Bureau proposes to create 5 permanent directorate posts in 2024, including 4 in the Civil Service College and 1 in the General Grades Office. In March, we consulted the Standing Commission on the condition, service, and pay of direct officers. We've received the support of the Commission. We hope we will also receive your support today, so we could put forward the proposal to the Establishment Subcommittee and then the Finance Committee, and then we could create a post as soon as possible. Now, first about the CSC, Civil Service College. The government is committed to enhancing our governance. So civil servants play an important role. Through training, we could build the right mindset and also build team culture, and then we could enhance the overall quality of the civil service. The former CSTDI structure and manpower structure cannot really allow us to achieve this mission. So when we sought funding to create the post of the head of the Civil Service College, we already stated then one of the important tasks of the head is to review the organizational structure and resources need of the CSC. This is make sure that there is a sound, robust foundation for the CSC. The CSC may not be able to take up its important role with the current structure. There are now 143 permanent posts, 69 are training officer in the officer grade, and then for the director post, apart from the head, there are just 2 D1 and D2 posts. They are also the principal officers in the training officer grade. So we need to enhance the directorate structure of the CSC so we could take forward our training mission and achieve our training mission. We propose to set up a school of public sector leadership, a school of professional development, a center for research and development, and a corporate services office. I'll now explain the functions of these new offices. The School of Public Sector Leadership is dedicated to training of senior civil servants and so as to enhance their leadership, governance, and public policy making capabilities. As for the School of Professional Training, it's dedicated to the provision of foundation and professional development training for civil servants, so that at different stages of the career, colleagues will keep enhancing their skills, and then they will also deepen their understanding on the basic law, national affairs, national security law, and people-oriented service culture, and so on. So that's why almost all civil servants are the targets of the School of Professional Development. CSC is also going to set up a center for research and development to enhance its research capabilities. For example, we will do case studies of good practices elsewhere. This is to make sure that our training courses will help boost our governance level. And also, there will be collaboration with local, mainland, and overseas institutions, and so on. As for the Corporate Services Office, is in charge of the administrative duties. For example, during the development of the new CSC complex in Kwun Tong, the CSO will oversee the development, and upon completion, will take up the project management of the new complex. Now, in the annexes 2A to BU new, you see the existing and the new organization. And then for now, there is for the School of School of Public Sector Leadership, there's one, we propose one PTO at D2, and School of Professional Development, because it will serve many different civil servants. So apart from PTO at D2, also propose a one APTO post at D1 level. And then for the Center for Research and Development, we propose a one PTO D1 post, and then for the and also for this we also propose a new D3 post under the TO grades. That means that will be a deputy head post to support the head of CSC. Now, there are only 2 promotion posts for the PTOs, and if we're not able to have internal promotion, then we may consider in-service recruitment or open recruitment. And then in the new structure, we need to create 4 additional directorate posts. In annexes 2A to F, where we list out the job descriptions of the different posts. Now, the CSC is at a critical stage of its development. We need to enhance the leadership structure of the CSC to see through its various tasks. Now, CSC has launched various new measures, but then in the past 3 years, because of the pandemic, many overseas and mainland training courses, even local courses, have been suspended. That's why we were able to spare the manpower to attend to the new tasks. But now, with the resumption of normal travel, so mainland and overseas training will resume. Therefore, the CSCs cannot rely on this existing staff structure to plan new training programs and to conduct existing programs. So there's need for us to add more manpower to the CSC. We hope members will support the creation of the 4 director posts. Now, I want to talk about the General Grades Office. The GGO is responsible for the management of the EO Executive Officer grade, as well as A clerical and secretarial grades. There are sections managing the different grades, and also civil service examinations. there are over 32,000 officers in the EO grade. That means the management covers a wide range, including recruitment, manpower planning, performance management, staff management, and so on. So we propose to set up a D1 post of Principal Executive Officer. Under the Director of General Grades, there is a D2 director post, that is Senior Principal Executive Officer. The person is responsible for managing the different sections and the training and development of all grades, as well as overseeing the civil service examinations. Right now, the person in this post is overburdened, so this SPCEO is not able to attend to all the work under the 4 sections and so on. And then for the D1 PEO, it already the person has already covered the 8 clerical and secretarial grades. So already the burden is heavy. There's no way the person in this post could share the work of the SPEO. That's why we need to strengthen the manpower of the GGO. One of the the duties of the senior PEO will be the management of the EO grade. In the past decade or so, the number of officers in the EO grade has increased from 2,000 plus by 85% to 3,800 plus, and we expect the number to go up to 4,000 in another year or two. So in 17 years, the number has increased by twofold. Now, so the SPEO is directly in charge of managing the EO's grades. So, and also there's also an increase in the CNS grades by some 10% in terms of number. And then there are the SPGEO is also responsible for managing other aspects of the work, and with the substantial increase in the number of EO officers and CNS officers, there is a much more heavy workload, and so the SPCEO has to focus on the training of the EO. That's why we propose this new SPEO post. It could take over some of the management tasks as well as overseeing the civil service examinations, and then the SPCEO could again focus on strategic work. We propose that the new SPEO will take up the management of the EO grade, and then that for the existing post, the D2 post, it could then look at focus on strategic work, such as streamlining work process and improve in efficiency and so on. Now, I could give you an example on the need for devising strategies. In recent years, the government set up many offices on the mainland and overseas, and so that's why there's creation of many more EO posts. As EPO have to devise training and development policies for this post, and also they have to select suitable officers to this post, and then they have to oversee their performance as well. The SPEO needs time to do the strategic work, so they could put the best persons in the best post, in the most suitable post. And also with civil service examinations, the SPCO is also in charge of the various examinations held by the CSEO, such as the general recruitment examinations and joint recruitment examinations. They examinations are held in Hong Kong and 7 cities outside of Hong Kong. This is a massive exercise, and so we need someone at the directorate level to oversee the planning and management of such work. That's why we propose that for the new SPEO, it will take up the person will take up the task of overseeing the strategic development of different examinations. For example, different modes of examination, the distribution of overseas exam venues, and so on. Now, the SPEO will the existing MPCO could then have time to review the training and development strategies for all grades, including the EO and CNS grades. That's why there's need to have this additional new post, and we ask members for your support for this new PEO post, that is, for the GGO. Now, in accordance with the rules of procedure, if members have direct or indirect pecuniary interest, you have to declare such interest before you speak. So the floor will be open to questions. Mr. Tony Chair, Dr. So Chung Wing, and Mr. Lai Tong Kwok have pressed the button.
Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you, Chair. We have discussed the expected workload of the CSC. The scope of the training courses provided is very broad, and the number of participants is expected to be high. So I support the creation of additional manpower. This may help achieve the target set out in the policy address. There are 5 goals. I hope that you will report your progress to us in due course. In paragraph 11 of the paper, you have mentioned the manpower situation. I wonder how much additional manpower you need in order to handle all the workload. Currently, there are 134 permanent civil service posts. But other than these permanent posts, do you have other colleagues on contract terms? Just then, Mr. Kwok said that he had conducted a visit in Singapore. You have given some numbers on the Singapore Civil Service College in the paper. You have only given us the number of civil servant staff. I hope that you can provide us with more information here. Second, other than these 4 directorate posts, how about non-directorate staff? Do you need to increase manpower there too to handle the increased workload? Lastly, on job description. Very often, it is about the formulation of training policies and strategies. Since your service targets are civil servants, do civil servant organizations have opportunities to express their views in terms of training policies or training contents? Secretary. Thank you, Chair. In the CSC, other than permanent posts, if memory serves, there are no staff on contract terms. Perhaps we can confirm this detail after the meeting. Your second question was that other than directorate posts, what is the manpower situation for non-directorate posts? We are planning to add 29 posts. Among them, 4 are directorate posts and 25 are non-directorate posts. Some of them are of the training officers grade, some are accounting officers, some are from the logistics related grade, and some are IT officers, since we need to establish a new IT platform. Your last question was how we collect views from the staff side. We have regular liaison with staff associations. We have provided plenty of channels for them to voice their opinion. I'll see if Mr. Kwok has anything to add. Thank you. During our visit to Singapore, what did we actually draw reference from? We are not comparing the numbers directly. We are merely comparing with a civil service of about the same size. Together with public sector workers, they have about 150,000 officers. This is comparable to the size of our civil service. We have drawn reference from how they train their senior officers effectively so that they can carry out public policies and to enhance their capabilities as the senior leaders of our government. One of the targets of the establishment of the CSC is to provide them with the skills they need to govern effectively. Any follow-up? Chair, I've mentioned the addition of manpower for both directorate and non-directorate posts. If we look at the numbers in the Singapore Civil Service College, they have 300 staff members. So even with the addition of manpower, the number is not close to 300 at all. So should we expect any future increase of manpower? Or do you have enough manpower already to handle the workload? Mr. Kwok, thank you for your concern. Well, I will not say that we have enough manpower, but we need to take careful consideration before using any public funds. We have sufficient resources to start our operation and head for the right direction. Along the way, we will learn from our experience and report to the panel. If necessary in the future, we will apply for more resources according to the established mechanism. And we may seek your support in the future. Chair, if I may add, when do you expect these 4 new posts to report for duty? If the proposal is approved by the panel, the Establishment Subcommittee, and the Finance Committee, we want to start the recruitment process as soon as possible. We need to see if the selection, we need to ensure that there is a smooth selection process. So are you saying you will do that within this year? When we need to depend on the schedule of the Finance Committee, I think we can only submit our proposal in June. We need to conduct interviews and receive applications. We believe that the expected date is early next year. Thank you. Next, Dr. So Chun-Wing, Chair. The Secretary has given us a very detailed presentation. So in 2023 to 24, regarding the 5 additional posts, I support these proposals. Just then, the Secretary mentioned that after the pandemic, exchanges will be arranged with international counterparts and our counterparts on the mainland. Because of the pandemic, the content of the training courses were limited. So after the pandemic, we need to enhance the course content. I support the establishment of the Center for Research and Development. Because we can draw reference and experience from good practices on leadership and public administration, both locally and from other places as well. Hong Kong has a quality civil service that is world renowned. I believe that good training contributes to that as well. It is important to look at the training approach. The global development is ever changing. So for values and culture of the civil service team, it needs to move with the times. That is why the Center for Research and Development is especially important. So on content of the training courses and staffing situation provided by the CSC, is it possible for you to conduct regular reviews? You shouldn't adopt the same approach without changing it with the times. It is best that you review your practice once every year or every 2 years. The administration has established the Chief Executive's Policy Unit. The unit provides valuable insight to the CE and the administration on public policies. So I believe that the training content for civil servants should be in sync with the direction that our government is taking. I hope that the Center for Research and Development can achieve a sort of synergy effect with the policy unit. This can help build a good culture for the civil service. Thank you.
Secretary, I'll take the first question, and then the Ted will take the second one. We will review the manpower needs from time to time. And we'll also take stock of our experience. If we're able to create these 4 posts, that means we are able to implement the new organizational structure that I explained. Then we'll see whether we have enough manpower after we have established the new structure. Right now, we are, taking a restrained approach because we don't have enough facilities yet. The complex is still being constructed. And we've only just started. We don't yet have an IT platform for us to keep records of training and for us to monitor the progress. So when the hardware and the software are in place, as I explained in the last item, we will then require the departments to build their own training structure, setting out different milestones as to at what stage what training should be given to colleagues. And by then, of course, there will be a much heavier workload in managing that. And so maybe by then we'll need more manpower. So we will review the structure at an appropriate juncture. I'll ask the head to take up the other question. On the regular review of training courses, definitely we will do it. We've also said that we would review our manpower structure and organization structure from time to time, so you can rest assured. On the setting up of the research center, the Center for Research and Development, I thank you for your support for this idea. You asked whether there will be synergy effect between the Center for Research and Development and the Chief Executive's Policy Unit in terms of research work. Yes, since the CE's Policy Unit was set up, well, I have met with the head of the unit twice, and also explained to the unit about the philosophy behind our center, and I've also suggested that in future we could support each other's work at the appropriate level. So this is being done. And we're not just talking about Hong Kong. I visited other places on the mainland, and I visited Singapore. So I've had discussions on research and collaboration. So with different think tanks and institutes, we have established relationship for exchanges in future. If I may also explain the idea behind setting up the Center for Research and Development. Now this is actually a new capacity we are creating for the government. It didn't exist before. Is an important element of our long-term training and development strategy, because with research we can ensure that the training programs are of good quality. The Center for Research and Development will work together with local think tanks and tertiary institutes to carry out research work. The center could also has the capacity to provide government data, because for non-government bodies they have little access to government data, but with collaboration with this center, then there's this possibility. Now, as for staff of the Center for Research Development, we expect these people to have research experience, and they're able to establish contact with overseas or mainland research institutes. Thank you. Dr. So, did you ask to speak for a second time? No? Oh, sorry, perhaps you pressed a button by mistake. Next, Mr. Lai Tong Kok, Deputy Chairman. The establishment of the CSC was an important decision of the last term of the SAR government. It's hoped that with the establishment of the CSC, then we could substantially boost the quality of civil servants. Now, the Civil Service Bureau has asked to create 5 posts, and 3 of the new posts directly related to the training of the different levels of civil servants. So my question is, in the training officer grade, what is the current establishment for directorate posts? And who is the head of grade? Thank you. Secretary? There are just 2 directorate posts in the training officer grade. One is the assistant principal training officer at D1 level, and principal training officer at D2 level. We're proposing 4 new directorate posts. That means in total we need 6 directorate officers to ensure the smooth running of the SCSC. So we check out this 4, then it's 3. So you mean 3? The SP, there's also someone in the EO grade. So if we don't count the head, there are two. If we don't count the head of CSC, then there are 2 director posts, and the head of grade of the training officer grade is the head of CSC. Now, my question for the head of CSC. I have mentioned already that there is an important mission for the CSC. Now, on the efficiency and the quality of the civil service, could there be a substantial enhancement? Then it depends on what the CSC could deliver under the leadership of the head of CSC. Now, if you have additional workload, of course, you need more manpower. So you do need additional manpower. But do you agree that picking the right persons is more important? Thank you. Head of CSC, thank you for your questions and your comments. Of course, it's important that we pick the right persons to fill these posts. This is of paramount importance. So, Mr. Kwok, as the head of the grade, you're also the head of the college. So, for your new deputy, that is the senior principal training officer post to be created. Now, who should fill the post? What sort of qualifications, experience, or qualities must that person possess to become a competent deputy to you?
於針對賦予
Mr. Kwok, thank you, Chair. Regarding the position of deputy head, we are pitching it at the D3 level because in the future we would like to allow the training officer grade to retain the experience in planning the training programs within the senior management level. If we are hiring the deputy head from the outside instead of recruiting in-service officers, that may have adverse impact on the passing on of experience. Right now, we are still in the construction phase of the CSC. So we need to recruit officers with a broad perspective. If we cannot identify suitable officers in service, then we do not preclude opening up the post for recruitment. The candidate needs to be someone who is patriotic and love Hong Kong. The post holder will also need to be innovative and is dedicated to the development of the CSC. The post holder will also need to enhance and promote changes. We prefer someone with experience in public policy administration, and someone who understands the operation of the government. So these are some of the qualities that we have in mind. In the paper, it is mentioned that you would like to select a suitable candidate from your own grade to promote as a deputy head, but you do not preclude the possibility of recruiting from outside the government. But my concern is this. There are only 2 directorate posts in the training officer grade. There are 16 chief training officers. The number is not high. With the development of the CSC, you may need to enhance manpower as well. With such a small establishment, do you find is it a large burden for you to train your existing officers to take over management roles? And if yes, what measures have you taken to tackle the problem? Thank you. What you have said is exactly the challenges that we face. In the establishment, we have some vacant posts. We are putting in efforts, my team and I. We are putting in place an internal training structure. We are setting out systematic requirements for officers at different ranks. And with the newly established schools or centers, especially the Center for Research and Development, we are adopting a mixed mode approach in recruiting new officers. We'll consider their academic qualifications and experience. Other than promoting training officers at this stage, we may introduce talents from different sectors, such as from the research sector or candidates with experience in public administration to fill these posts. This can enrich our talent pool. Chair, if I may, this problem is present in other grades as well. It's a question of chicken and egg. If there are not a lot of senior positions, it is difficult to utilize the potential of the talents of our colleagues, since the promotion prospect is limited. If we can provide more promotion opportunities, this can certainly boost the morale of our staff, and they may be more motivated to work harder and learn more in order to be promoted. We also have additional posts that is non-directorate posts. We hope to expand the pool of officers so that we can have more choices in the future when it comes to promotion. And Mr. Kwok has mentioned this as well. For the training officer grade, the entry-level rank is Training Officer 2. But because of the changes in our mode of teaching, we have not been recruiting any Training Officer 2. Our entry rank is now at Training Officer 1. We require them to have experience in training. For newly recruited officers, even the least experienced one, they have experience in training in HR work as well. So we are confident that we'll have quality candidates to fill our posts. Thank you. Lastly, it's my turn. I support the enhancement of training. In this item, we are discussing the proposed addition of posts, and I believe that we tend to support these proposals, but there are some details to be discussed. A new directorate post require 10 million annual expenditure. other than his own job duties or job description? Will there be more key performance indicators for the Civil Service College as a whole? I didn't see that in the paper, so I wonder if more details can be provided. This is my first question. Second, with the freezing of the establishment, if we are adding posts here, then some other posts will be eliminated. So, other than these 4 directorate posts, what posts were cancelled? I think this is something that members would like to know. Third, among the 25 non-directorate posts, 10 of them are technicians or program analysts. A separate computer system may be established to assist human resources management. I've yet to see the cost of such a system. How much do you expect to spend on this system? And with this system in place, how much manpower can be saved? And how can this facilitate systematic training for civil servants? 3 questions from me. Thank you. In terms of KPIs or performance pledges, they are set out in the controlling officer's report. I'll ask Mr. Kwok to elaborate on this. There is certainly an increase in these indicators. And for the number of posts in the establishment, yes, there will not be an increase in numbers. But we will not be cancelling the posts simply because we have added new posts. We look at the overall establishment change. The number of new posts will be less than the number of posts cancelled. So for these 30 additional posts, if you ask me where they come from, I can't tell you exactly. But we are keeping an eye on the overall picture. We keep statistics on the number of posts cancelled. So the number of additional posts will not be higher than the number of posts cancelled. The second question, I invite Mr. Kwok to answer the second question. Thank you. Just then you asked a question regarding the 10 support staff. They will assist in the establishment of a one-stop learning platform. I've mentioned this earlier. We have sought funding from the ACPC. The project is led by the OGCIO with the funding of some $13 million. The expenses will be approved in phases. In 2023 to 24, the expanded expenditure is 2.1 million. It is mainly for system analysis, development of the system, and the procurement of the relevant hardware. I've had a high expectation for this scheme, or for this system rather, because this will allow us to have an understanding of, or allow us to have a record of the number of training hours received by our colleagues. And this can help us improve the improved our training programs. So that concludes our discussion. I don't see any other members who wish to speak here. So I believe that our panel supports the proposal. So I would like to ask members, should the proposal be submitted for discussion by the Establishment Subcommittee? Are we in favor of this proposal? Yes. Next item, AOB. There being none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.